Hello, Namaskara. We welcome everyone to today's program. Today we are extremely delighted and blessed to have Shri Sriram Parashuram sir here with us today for a lecture demonstration. In sir's experience as a performer, musicologist, educator, teacher, and musician, and a true artist in all sense of the word, his experience is like Meru Parvata. So we thought the best person to introduce Sriram Parashuram sir would be his disciple, Kumari Shri Lakshmi Bhat. Shri Lakshmi herself is a violinist, a very accomplished violinist who has had the privilege of learning from sir for so many years. She is also going to be accompanying him on stage today. I request Shri Lakshmi to introduce Sriram Parashuram sir to all of us.
Namaste. Generally, everybody gives an introduction to him as an audience and gives a musician's perspective. So today I have the opportunity to give the introduction from the Shishya's perspective. So sir is not only just my guru, he has taught me various life lessons, a lot of moral values as well. So everybody knows that he is a child prodigy. He learned violin at the age of 4 and he gave his first performance at the age of 8. Since then he has given a lot of violin solo, vocal solo, jugalbandi concerts. He is the primary Shishya of his mother, Srimati Parvati Parashuram. He has trained under many stalwarts such as Sangeeta Kalanidhi Shri K.S. Narayana Swami, Sangeeta Bhushanam Krishnamurti Bhagavatar and Vaidyanath Bhagavatar, Sangeeta Kalanidhi Shri T. Vishwanathan, Sangeeta Kalanidhi Professor T.N. Krishnan and Sangeeta Kalacharya Professor S.R. Janaki Raman. For Hindustani music, he is one of the primary Shishyas of the Doyen Padma Bhushan Pandit C.R. Vyas, who is a leading light of the Kirana and Agra Gharanas. He has accompanied various artists from 3 generations, such as M.D. Ramanathan, D.K. Pattamal, R.K. Srikantan, Nedanuri Krishnamurti, T.N. Sheshagopalan, T.V. Shankar Narayanan, Mandolin U. Srinivas, Neveli Santana Gopalan, Sanjay Subramaniam, etc. Apart from music, he has done his Bachelor's of Engineering degree from VGTI, University of Bombay, and is an MBA graduate from IIM Calcutta. He has given a lot of lecture topics and papers such as on ragas of Carnatic and Hindustani music, a comparative survey, Tillanas and Taranas, history and adaptation of the violin into Indian classical music, Manodharma as a function of the Kriti and Varnam. Among the many accolades that Sir has been awarded, he has received a gold medal from the President of India for both Carnatic and Hindustani violin in 1981. And some of the awards listed are the Ustad Amir Khan Award, the Bharat Ratna M.S. Subbulakshmi Award, the D.K. Pattamal Memorial Award, and he received Kalaimamani from the government of Tamil Nadu. And so on. There are a lot of awards that he has received. So we begin the lecture demonstration now. Thank you.
Thank you, Shri Lakshmi. I request Dr. Sri Kiran Hebbar sir, President of Ragadhana Udupi, to kindly welcome today's artist with the flower.
श्रीगणनाथं भज रे चित्तपराशक्तियुतं श्रीगणनाथं भज रे चित्तपराशक्तियुतं श्रीगणनाथं भज रे नागयज्ञसूत्रधरम् नागयज्ञसूत्रधरं नादलयानन्दकरं श्रीगणनाथं भज रे चित्तपराशक्तियुतं श्रीगणनाथं भज रे आगमादिसन्नुतम् अखिलदेवपूजितम् आगमादिसन्नुतम् अखिलदेवपूजितं भोगशाली भावितं भोगिशायि सेवितं भोगशाली भावितं भोगिशायि सेवितं रागद्वेषादिरहितं रमणीय हृदय विदितं रागद्वेषादिरहितं रमणीय हृदय विदितं श्रीगुरुसन्मुदितं चिन्मूलकमलास्थितं श्रीगणनाथं भज रे रागद्वेषादिरहितं रमणीय हृदय विदितं श्रीगुरुसन्मुदितं चिन्मूलकमलास्थितं श्रीगणनाथं भज रे चित्तपराशक्तियुतं श्रीगणनाथं भज रे गणपत विगण हरण गजानन गणपत विगण हरण गजानन विराजित चंद्रमा बाल गणपत विगण हरण गजानन विराजित चंद्रमा बाल गणपत विगण हरण गजानन गणपत गणपत विगण हरण गणपत विगण हरण गणपत विगण हरण गजानन गणपत विगण गणपत विगण गणपत विगण हरण गणपत विगण हरण पगरि सनि रि ग पनि नि पगरि ग पनि पगरि परि ग रि सनि ग रि ग प सनि पगरि ग सनि रि नि स पगरि नि प स ग पनि पनि रि ग पगरि नि पगरि सनि रि गणपत विगण ग प पगरि सनि रि परि पगरि ग नि ग प स सनि रि रि स सनि नि प ग पगरि ग ग ग रि सनि प प नि रि ग प ग नि सनि प ग सनि ग नि प पगरि सनि रि Ganapata Vigana Harana Gajanana Ganapata Vigana Ganapata Vigana Ganapata Vigana Gajanana Ganapata Ganapata Vigana Ganapata Vigana Ganapata Vigana Ganapata Vigana Vigana Harana Harana Gajanana Gajanana Ganapata Vihana Harana Gajanana Ganapata Vihana Harana Gajanana Virajita Chandrama Bhale Ganapata 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 Vigana Haranana Gajanana. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaskara to all of you. Extremely delighted to be here at the invitation of Shri Arvind Hebarji. It's a raining morning and it's happy to see a few of you who have turned up. Indicates you're wanting to know a little bit more, to get enriched, hopefully, to some elements of our great tradition that is so rich. That's why it takes many lifetimes to be able to understand a little bit of it. What I began was with a composition of Muthuswami Dikshitar in the raga Isha Manohari, and the next was a stuti on Ganesha in the raga Hamsadhwani. We are dealing with a slightly complex situation on stage because there are two shrutis. That is, I will sing, I will play the violin, and there is the encumbrance of the microphone whose positions and everything is different. So I will ask you to request you to excuse the breaks in between sometimes, where we have to make small changes. Today's topic is a very interesting and very dear to me. The topic is very close to my heart because I am very blessed to have learnt an instrument called the violin, which is an adaptation of a Western instrument into Indian classical music over the past 150-200 years. And of course, learning an instrument, it works both ways. That is, learning an instrument, it becomes necessary to learn to sing if you want to be a complete instrumentalist. And learning to sing necessitates that you have to learn to play an instrument. That's why the wisdom of many of our Sangeeta ancestors, Purvaja, was that you cannot learn one without the other. In fact, even today there are some universities in India where music is offered as a subject, where even if you are going to get your degree in, say, BA vocal or, an MA in vocal, it's compulsory that you have to learn an instrument. Without at least learning the basics of an instrument, without a Vadya Jnana, you cannot get the degree. That is the wisdom of our system. Because the two of them represent two complementary elements of our musical heritage. At different points in time, from the time of Bharata that is 5th century, through Matanga and through Sangeeta Ratnakara of Sharangadeva, and later on through works, we see that both these aspects of our music have been nurtured and nourished very significantly. The theory of music applies equally to the two. Many of the greatest of innovations and theoretical revelations have been done with the help of instruments. Sharangadeva's path-breaking 22 Shruti concept, which dictated the way music evolved through the last 8-9 centuries, is based on a veena that he innovated upon. You know, all of you know about 22 Shrutis? Terima. You all are familiar with the concept. It's a very difficult concept to comprehend and to make full sense of. But suffices to say that our system of the scalar origins of raga, the precision, the gamakas, all of them are based on the sense of the 22 Shrutis. The system of 22 Shrutis is based upon a very simple assumption or acoustic fact of the human ear and of acoustics, the physics of sound. It is based on a concept called resonance and non-resonance, where he came up with two veenas and detuned one of the veenas in small gradations, and through the principle of resonance ruled out that this was the next step. So you have the continuum of an octave, which is continuous frequency spectrum. Then you have steps. Those 22 steps that are ensconced within an octave are what we call the Shrutis. And within them, the 12 Swarasthanas, the 8 Swaras, are assigned positions. So when you say Chatushruti Rishabha, it means 4 Shrutis above the Sa. Even though it is the second Swarasthana, Shuddha Rishabha, then Chatushruti Rishabha, but it is 4 Shrutis above the Sa. And similarly, when you say Shatshruti Rishabha, it is 6 Shruti divisions above the Shadja. Similarly so the evolution of our Swaras system as we sing them today, and also to do with the nuances of the gamakas or even the note positions, have to do with that sense of the Shrutis. So if you say that in Gaula, for example, in Carnatic Gaula, the Rishabha is a Eka Shruti Rishabha. Pa ma ri ga ma ri. That it's not the Ri, it's not that position. Ri, sa ni pa ni sa ri, ni pa ma ga ma ri ga ma ri. If you're a sensitive musician, you will sing it that way. Or a Gandhara in Saveri, which is a little below the normal Antara Gandhara. Da ma ga ri, da ma ga. It's very difficult to get a sense and be convinced about that ga. Da ma ga ri, da da ri sa ri. So the amount of sophistication of Shrutis. Balamurli sir in the north, Badi Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab have all dealt with this in very concrete terms. You will not even know that the heightened Shruti of a Nishada in Bhimplasi, you know, pa ni ni sa ni da pa pa ga ma pa ni ni sa. It is a pa ni ni. That is the Kaisiki Nishadam that we are familiar with. But pa ni ni sa. Can you perceive the difference between the two? Pa ni da pa. The heightened position of the Dhaivata. Pa ni da pa ga ma pa ni da pa. The dha is high, the ni is also high. That is what gives it its very, very unique sound signature. So a raga's sound signature is beyond just the saying, this is Shuddha Rishabha, this is Chatusri Rishabha, this is Kakali Nishada, this is Kaisiki Nishada. No, it is much beyond that. If you want to engage with it, if a musician wants to understand the glory of our music, and this is evolved through, even later on, we will not get into theory, through the evolution of the Raghunatha Veena by King Raghunatha, which we today call the Saraswati Veena. All the instruments, the evolution of instruments has greatly influenced the music itself. The music is this big umbrella, and the vocal dimension and the instrumental dimensions partake of the music. That is the speciality of Indian classical music. In European music, for example, in Western classical music, instrumental music is separate from that of, say, an aria or an opera or a church mass. The vocal music there is very different. The repertory is different. The way it unfolds is different. Right? So the sonata form or the concerto is not applicable to a vocal form. They are essentially instrumental compositional genres. Whereas in Carnatic or Hindustani, the musical firmament is a shared domain. The raga, the tala, the compositions, everything we either play or sing has to do with the raga. They are just two manifestations of the same musical reality. Yeah. And this big super reality, the instrument manifests it in one particular way, and the voice manifests it in another particular way. And this is a progression of different ideas, different great musicians contributing to the flow of both instrumental music as well as vocal music. And the give and take, specialities of each, the possibilities and potential embedded in the vocal idiom, though today we consider the vocal idiom as the primary idiom, right? But it is not fully true, because the vocal idiom has constantly been fed by instrumental idiom, instrumental sound. Correct? So when you hear G&B sing, G. N. Balasubramaniam, the great singer, sing, if you pay attention, a lot of it is from the Nagaswaram. If you listen to what Amir Khan Saab sings or Bade Ghulam Ali Khan sing, some of these names you are familiar with. Yeah, they are all great stalwarts. You can hear the sarangi in it. The evolution of the music itself, the gamakas within it, even some of the forms, the compositional forms, have an instrumental origin. That's why even though the vocal dimension is supreme to an extent, but it is not totally supreme. It constantly is. It delves and borrows from so many different instrumental idioms. Today, nobody sings without the influence of Lalgudi Jayaraman. Correct? The gamakas have been refashioned. The way the mind in terms of creativity works is totally, determined by Jayaraman sir's musical mind and his violin mind. He himself was greatly influenced by Semangudi Srinivasa Iyer, G&B, Alathur, etc. So the constant play between these two aspects of our music is something that if we understand, we are more the richer in terms of understanding where this is coming from. Where a G&B's Brika is coming from, you have to know that it is coming from a Rajaratnam Pillai. Rajaratnam Pillai was a master musician who redefined the scope and form of Carnatic music in the 1920s and 30s. The Todi that we sing and like so much was a different Todi before him. He reinvented the raga based on what his instrument was best at. And it was so appealing and attractive and so rich that vocalists started borrowing from him. Tanjavur S. Kalyan Raman's brilliance, you heard Tanjavur S. Kalyan Raman's brilliance was greatly impacted by the way the great M.S. Gopalakrishnan played. So there's a constant back and forth. Like I said, the way Saket Raman or some of the younger musicians sing, or even Bombay Shri, the way they sing, is fashioned by Lalgudi sir's violin playing. The aesthetics, the way the voice is projected as a violin would project its sound. It's not the normal vocal projection. Many of these are subconscious alignments and evolutions. They are not thought of. But when you learn under Lalgudi Jayaraman, his violin sound is so deeply embedded in him that even when he sings, it sounds like the violin. Correct? This is not a judgment. This is not even I am too small to profit. This is an insight that I have observed. All of you are free to reject it or accept it. It's up to you. But when Lalgudi sir sings, there are a few recordings of his singing. And of course, he taught his students through singing. My Guru Vishwa sir, there was a concert of his in the US when he was visiting in the tail end of his life. And then and we had gone for that concert. My sir, Vishwa sir, and me, we had gone for that concert. So after the concert, somebody asked Vishwa sir is T. Vishwanathan, the great musician, Sangeeta Kalanidhi T. Vishwanathan. So somebody asked him, how was the concert? How was the singing? So in Tamil he replied, "Eppadi vasikiraro adhe mari paadrar." He sings as he plays. So that is the truth of the fact that we sing as we play and we play as we sing. When somebody claims that they play Gayaka on an instrument, the attempt of playing like how somebody sings. The voice continues to be the supreme dimension because it is created by Ishvara. Instruments are created by us with inspiration and the blessings of Ishvara, but it is not created by Ishvara himself. It's put together, correct? This violin has 255 parts. It's put together. And it has evolved through craft, through different makers, through so many centuries. And it finds perfection at the hands of a few people like Maggini, Nicola Amati, Stradivari, Guarneri. For the past 500 years, this form of the violin has remained unchanged because it has kind of perfected itself. So everybody who says they invent some version of the violin, it is just a flash in the pan, it doesn't stay. L. Shankar will invent his double violin, somebody else will say some 5-string, 10-string violin, they will play and it will disappear. That's just a novelty. The violin remains unchanged. So that is a pinnacle of human endeavor. But the endeavor of Ishvara, which is the human voice, is supreme. There's no doubt about it. The voice can do everything that any sound anywhere in the universe which is manifested, the human voice seems to be able to do that. Even if you look at modern music, I don't know if you're familiar with beatboxing and producing percussion. So they are producing sound of trumpets and oboes and violins and all full orchestra. There are people who are perfecting the art of producing with the voice. The voice is so complete that it becomes the greediest musical instrument. It wants to do everything that other people are doing. Correct? So it is all the time looking for new things to do. And it turns to instrumental sound, instrumental ways of thinking, and it has evolved along those lines. Is my English comprehends? You are able to understand? Yeah. Okay. So, for example, in the middle of the 20th century, people felt that why not, even though Sollukattu was a method of teaching rhythmic aspects, Sollukattu was appropriated by the voice. That is, the mridangam and its complexity in terms of jati and solle and all that was appropriated by the voice. And then hence, that became a dimension of the vocal sound. Today, even when I like Zakir's enunciation of a chakradhar or a rela much more than when he plays, because the voice has even overtaken the tabla. Correct? Because the voice can add a dimension to to the realization of that mridangam or kanjira sound. When I say something like the modulations which I can do with my voice are not possible on the mridangam. The clarity is spashtam, that if you are able to realize that, it can have a musicality of the mridangam which surpasses the mridangam. So actually it is important to realize that some of the gamakas that somebody sings, I can play on my violin better than any singer can do. Because the instrument affords me luxuries like consistency, affords me a luxury of predictability. Every time I do that gamaka, it will be the same. Whereas except for maybe one or two people whom I can recollect, among all the singers I've heard, that degree of consistency and perfection I've not heard in the voice. One day it will come, the next day it will not come. I will take 1 minute to tell you what a marvel the voice is, if you may not know, and what a marvel the violin is. They always say that you don't choose the instrument chooses you. Correct? So I didn't choose to play the violin, right? But it chose me, and then I have spent 55 years with it now. So we easily say vocal cords. It's important to understand the magic and marvel of these instruments, because the voice also is an instrument. It is governed by principles of acoustics. It's what is called a reed instrument. What are some reed instruments that you may know? Harmonium. Then the Nagaswaram, the Shehnai are reed instruments. Reed is when air is forced through a vibrating element. That is the basic definition of a reed instrument. So the bellows of a harmonium send air through a metal vibrating element, and that's what produces the sound. In an Nadaswaram, the filament of that particular mouthpiece, which is made of a kind of grass which grows on the river banks, it's a compaction of those individuals. So there are 28 to 30 reeds, and that's why you get that continuous sound. They are vibrating through the air. Shehnai also similarly. So the vocal cord is also similar. You know the vocal cords, if you know the physiology of it. You know how many reed elements are there in an average vocal cord? Like I said, the Nagaswaram has anywhere from 20 to 40. Any guesses? 30,000. Independent fiber tissue. And for a singer to hit a perfect sa, all 30,000 have to be controlled to vibrate at the same frequency. That's why a perfect sa is not possible. Only Saraswati, Goddess Saraswati, can produce perfect sa. We are in the process. That process is equally valid. Even if you're not going to reach there, they always say, no, the destination is not important. The journey is important. In the case of singing, it's exactly that. Because you're never going to get your muscular control. And the length of it is hardly above 1 centimeter, the entire thing. And there are multiple muscles which control its extension and compaction. That's how the frequency is altered. All this happens as magic from birth. Right? So when you sing a particular note, you are training the sadhana is to make those things vibrate with respect to the gamaka, with respect to the volume, with respect to the tonality. Tonality is again another very, very big subject scientifically. It has to go to do the fundamental note and the partial harmonics. So if Samanvi's voice is different from mine or Sri Lakshmi, it's because these partials are different. The harmonics are... So in 30,000 fibers which are vibrating, the possibilities of these partials, the tonality, is going to be also infinite. That's why no two voices ever sound the same. When there is a great amount of bhakti and when the great amount of the imitation instinct, then you, with the power of your mind and with intuition, you start singing like your guru. If you have heard Trishur Ramachandran sing, it will be like GNB. That is the power of the mind, and that is power of bhakti. Where you can, if the dedication is 100%, you can sing like somebody. You can, it's not a given. If you do the sadhana and if the bhakti is very high, you can imitate somebody's singing. It's a very magical process. And that is only the beginning. Then the whole voice producing apparatus of the chest cavity, of the diaphragm, of the breathing, of the muscles of the neck, of the jaw, Nabhi Hrit Kantha Rasana, when Tyagaraja says, you know that Kriti? So Villu Saptaswara. So he's aware of it. Tyagaraja was not just one guy sitting in blind bhakti. He was rooted in knowledge. He is able to understand the flow of air, Nabhi Hrit Kantha Rasana Nasadulayandu. The nose, the tongue, all of it are playing an element in the way you produce sound. So the complexity of sound in voice production is immense. It makes you surrender because you cannot understand it. The more you know about the voice, the more you become a slave of it. You can never master it. Yeah, that's why sometimes not knowing is better. Because if you come to know of it, it's scary. Correct? But then one has to go beyond that scary part and have faith. Then you discover faith. Anyway, so on the violin is equally amazing. If I say that the violin is a plucked string instrument, would you agree with me? You wouldn't agree. Who would agree? Nobody will agree. But that is the fact. Only thing on the violin, if you see the string is like this. The bow moves perpendicular to the string. The bow hair, there are anywhere from 75 to 100 horse hair elements in the bow. Correct? And there is a phenomenon in physics called friction. And when I put one rosin, you have seen people put one rosin. That rosin, what it does, it separates each hair. It's a kind of powder which when you put on the bow, it separates and all the hair, when I try to pull it, there is friction between the bow surface, hair surface and the string. By the friction it grips. And by the tension of the string is trying to return back to its original position. So there is a string, the bow hair is slightly trying to displace it. The string wants to go back. String goes back. The bow again pulls it. String goes back. This happens 200, 250 times a second. So it is actually it is being plucked 250 times. And because of the high rate of plucking, it sounds like a continuous sound. Right? Huh? No, vibration comes later. Once that plucked is transferred to the body of the violin through the bridge and the sound post, then the air inside and the wood vibrate. And that is what amplifies the sound. But the essential thing is of it being plucked 250 times a second. And it is that sustenance of sound which gives us the illusion of continuous sound. Okay? That's why if we don't put rosin, it will slip, it will not grip. And hence you will not get that sound producing physics. Okay? So just for home a trivia that the bowed instrument is actually in essence a plucked instrument. On the veena we do it only once. That's why we are able to hear that one single impulse. Here, because it is happening in minor amplitudes, 250 times a second, we are not able to perceive the individual sound. But if you send it through a spectrometer, you will be able to, today, we have done that such studies. When you send it through a frequency analyzer, you can hear the individual notes, individual plucks. Yeah? Okay? So I've been speaking too much. Let us play or sing something. Okay, now we shall play something on the violin. Okay, it's an open floor. Because I'm speaking constantly, neither am I going to be able to sing very well, nor am I going to be able to play very well. Because the warming up is always broken. Okay? But we will do, for the purpose of a Lec Dem, we will, and you can suggest whatever you want to listen to. I think my knowledge of understanding of ragas is quite broad that I can respond to most of them. What shall we play? Okay. We shall begin with a little bit of Abhogi, which is shared by both Carnatic and Hindustani. We can see how try to relate deeply to the sound of the violin and see how it is trying to approach the voice in terms. The violin is very, very ideal. Everybody will claim that their chosen instrument is the best instrument. But in very objective terms, the violin comes very, very close to the voice. And that is why it is the chosen instrument for a company. Correct. The main reason being continuous sound. Only a wind instrument like the flute or the violin can produce continuous sound. Even though Saraswati is holding a veena in her hand, that is somebody's imagination. If that artist or the first person who thought of Saraswati holding the veena in her hand, if he or she had known about the violin, Saraswati would be holding a violin in her hand. Because in the Indian context, continuous sound is very important. The voice, it is clear. Sa re ga ga ma ri da sa ri. Can the veena do that? It will ta 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 ta, because the plucked instrument will die down. That is the nature of sound, of the plucked sound. Ta 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 ta. So many plucks. Whereas it doesn't have ta. That continuous sound is not possible. I am not demeaning or undermining anything here. Okay? I am just putting in front of you my observations. If you, like I said, I started it by saying you can reject these insights. But that is the insight. Ga ma ri 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 ri. Continuous powerful Rishabha. A sitar cannot do it. Sitar tries to do it and it covers it up by using all those sympathetic strings. The reason, because that sound requires sympathy. Anyway, that's a joke. It requires the support. Whereas the flute, the basuri and the flute can do it, but it is limited by the breaths. So, the violin is never limited by, if I can begin today till I die, I can play a particular sound, because the bow is a continuous instrument of sound production. Any plucked instrument. I am not commenting about the artist. I am saying the Gotavadya will have to die down and it will have to be activated again. It is the nature of the organ. In organology, we refer to the instrument as an organ. It is the nature of that instrument. Why is? Yes, the Sarangi was there. Sarangi is same principle. Sarangi was there. When Sarangi players became very apashruti, they resorted, because it was, Sarangi had a little bad history in terms of, not because of the Sarangi, because it started being used in some other contexts, and hence the classicalness of it was looked down upon by some quarters. It's not correct. I'm not supporting that. And because the pesha, the profession of Sarangiyas, underwent a slight, what is called a ebb, low, the harmonium came in. And because of the harmonium's ability to give a kind of a sense of the notes very precisely, because the keys are there. So it, as a support, it was able to see that. And the violin didn't evolve as an instrument deep enough in the North Indian tradition, and hence it remained a weak, today also it remains a very weak instrument in the presence, not in terms of possibility. It remains a, violin concert in Hindustani is more of an exception than the norm. And there is the politics and the human element which comes in, where the sitarist will make sure that this violin never comes up. Because that's what happens. In the South, we are a little more generous, to the point that we have invited all instruments to take places. Like today, somebody plays on the Macintosh, kwai, kwai, kwai. We treat it as Carnatic music. What to do? People will send me forwards. Listen to this, sir. So beautiful it is. I will say, that is not Todi. That is ta na 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 na. That is not Todi, no. That is not Todi the way I want it to be. Yeah, so on the saxophone, I have nothing against all those people. They are doing their bit, let them do. Saxophone, again, plain notes, it doesn't sound Carnatic at all. So we are generous to that point, where we will accept things even if they are not even close to ideal. The North Indian culture is little more resilient. It will resist. So the harmonium, they have made sure it is kept as a side, not at the center. Though there are some harmonium solos, they're far and few. Correct. I'm being very honest and frank. Please don't quote me outside. I'm just sharing some of my insights. So you will not find, though the Brijbhushan Kabra's, the slide guitar, which later on Vishwa Mohan Bhat has taken in India. But then again, the vast possibility of tonal variation is zero. It is one continuous sound. There are no inflections, there are no bhavas possibility. Correct? Sa, re, ga, ga. This the slide guitar cannot do. You can call it Mohan Veena, you can call it any Veena. Ma, ma, ga, ri, ma, ma, ga, the tonal pull of that. Ma, ma, ga, re, ga, ma, ri, da, sa. Can it do? For a very, very good ear. For a ear which is, for somebody who doesn't have the blessing of very, very sharp hearing, this will be fine. But I always keep in my mind that Saraswati is listening to me. So I better be very, very thorough and as complete as I can with respect to that. I'm sure Saraswati is not hearing this Mohan Veena and all. She will prefer to listen to Bhimsen Ji or Rashid Khan or somebody like that. Because it is much richer. It is much richer than the Swara domain. You know, just playing the notes of ta na 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 na, that is not Abhogi. That is Aroha scale of Abhogi. But the vocal dimension of Abhogi is much, much bigger. You know? It's like saying you can make great rasam out of just putting tamarind water and tomato and rasapodi. That doesn't make rasam, no? Just having the ingredients there is not enough. The ingredients have to work magic. Then it is Abhogi. Correct? So in terms of the anuswaras, in terms of the tonality, in terms of the contour, the murchana, all of this are in Indian classical music are existing at a dimension much above the swaras that they are comprised of. So I shall play Abhogi in both the ways. That is in the Karna. The Carnatic is the original because Abhogi was adopted into Hindustani music only about 100 years back. Right? Carnatic music has been very rich in terms of many of these Audava ragas. Whereas in Hindustani, originally, because they thought of the raga in terms of murchana and not in terms of swaras, many Audava ragas didn't happen. The way in which ragas originated is different mental process. Yeah. Violin, because of its range of 4 to 5 octaves, theoretically, leapfrogs over the vocal idiom. Because the vocal range, generally speaking, is 2 to 2.5 octaves. So what we hear. So, this is very difficult for a vocalist to get with that power. Even the lower Rishabha and Shadja in the mantra sthai is going to be difficult. Very few singers can reach that kind of vocal range, right? And a very even range. It's like now this range of 3 octaves, 4 octaves, very even and consistently, right? The violin, because of its tonal range, from very soft to very loud, from very sweet to very harsh, that is a range. A musicality requires a range of sound which the human ear can appreciate. Right? So when I play, this is also a musicality. Right? Powerful, strident. Right? And that's also the opposite dimension. And when I bow from here to here, there's a great amount of tonal variation. Little flutish. And then as I go, this is a very tight and, what can I say, almost like a clarinet. Right? So the tonal range, that's why the violin is an epitome of human innovation. Do you know that the violin is originally an Indian instrument? There was an instrument called the Ravanastram. Ravana Hatha. It is still there in Rajasthan. It's a bowed instrument. So this instrument, Ravana, the veena that Ravana is supposed to have played, all of us have heard, no? That Ravana was a master of the veena. You heard that? Yeah. The Ravana veena is the Ravana Hatha, which is called today. You find it in 7th century, 6th century relief paintings in Gujarat and Rajasthan. So there is concrete proof, a bowed instrument, very similar to, if you go to Jaipur and Rajasthan, you'll see there are folk people playing the Ravana Hatha, even today. I've personally gone and interviewed some of them. You know, it's very fascinating. So the bowed instrument, this is the instrument which then travelled westwards to Europe and then got perfected there and came back to us as the violin. So it's one full circle. And this is not just because, we Indians have a tendency to say everything was born here. Correct? Everything happens only in Mylapore. Mylapore is a place where the best of music, whole world is, one great Sangeeta Kalanidhi told me when I wanted to go to the West, to America to study Western classical violin. What is there in Western music? It is just Sarigama only major scale, only Shankarabharanam. That was his idea. And this is a Sangeeta Kalanidhi. So as far as Carnatic music is concerned, everything came out of Mylapore only. Nothing is possible. Anyway, so that's but this, what I am saying, what I am claiming is after doing research. There is Ravana Hatha, and there is a process by which it has travelled by traders. It was taken, and then it was. You can hear me, no? Yeah, then it's not. The strings have always been varying. But this 4-stringed is there in Europe since 12th century. The viola da gamba, which was the predecessor of the whole violin family, which is the violin, viola, and the cello and the bass, were all 4-stringed from the 12th century. And it got perfected as that because, again, the range of human listening with pleasure for sound, the 4 or 5 octaves that is possible on the violin, was considered to be enough. At that time, even the harpsichord, the harpsichord which is the predecessor to the piano, it also had a narrow, it was not like the modern day piano having a 6-octave range. It had a 4-octave range. So that the instruments evolve according to the particular time in which music is being made and music is being heard. Correct? Later on, when the piano developed to a 6-octave or more range, and the church, what is called the organ, the church organ, some of you might have seen, that also had a big range. Because you are trying to accommodate the 4 voice ranges, the 2 of the male, the baritone and tenor, and the alto and soprano of the female range. So you are trying to capture a wider range because the church was always vocal music was very important in church. So the accompanying instrument needed to have a larger range. Correct? And so the instruments also developed like that. And hence, music of Beethoven, Mozart, Wagner, Berlioz, etc., who came much later, had a much larger octave frequency range. Correct? Yeah, so when we play the same abhogi in a Carnatic style, if the understanding of the gamakas and the soundscape of the Carnatic abhogi is clear in the mind, the violin will faithfully be able to reproduce that. So the element of the mind and the instrument able to manifest that musicality is what we are talking about. Correct? Like for example, like I said, on the veena to produce the continuous musicality is very difficult. You can only create illusions of that. You know, there are mechanisms by which, that is why when they tong, 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 so with the little finger, the sympathetic strings are constantly providing that ambience of the rishabha. They are not providing the rishabha. That one continuous rishabha they are not providing. They are as this sound dies, that supports it and keeps it alive. Anyway. And again, I'll keep saying this throughout. I don't mean to put any instrument down. Every instrument is glorious. But in terms of the Gayaka is possible only in certain instruments. They will claim that they are playing a Gayaka style, but that is not entirely correct. Now this exaggeration of the ga, you will not find it pre-Lalgudi. That's very much a musicality his musicality that has now become a vocal musicality. Right? Today, ga, ma, ga, we do sing that. Ga, ma, da, ma, ma, ga, ma, ma, ga. That is again a violin phrasing. Ma, ma, ga. It's a Lalgudi sir phrasing. I've heard singers before that. They will not have that particular ma, 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 ga. On the violin, it was part of his style. So, but once people like it, the subconscious vocalist will want to do that. It's a urge from within. So that's why, because that is recent history, I am able to reflect upon that. And within that ga, the speed of the ga, of that is called a dirgha kampita gamaka. It will change, it will vary, and the volume of that will also change. And there are so many varieties of that dirgha kampita that Lalgudi sir brought out with his violin. So, you know, yeah. So if you hear Dwaram, if you hear Rajamanikam Pillai, the violin is before that. This will not be there. You will not hear it even in a vocalist. But today it is very common. Mada ma ga ga, mada ma da da ma da ma. The dynamics of that Daivata being exaggerated. Right? It was part of a violin style. And that was learnt by the musicians. They liked it. Nothing wrong in adapting something beautiful from some other tradition. For example, I'll tell you the idea of using syllables, the idea of gamaka, all of them even in the vocal tradition, is entirely born out of the veena. Right? If I sing a phrase like, I call this vocal tension is necessary part of a jaru. Jaru is a gamaka where I am connecting two notes. If I sing ga da ma, this travel from ga to da has a tension of the voice. I will sing it without that tension. You see if you like that abogi. Ga da ma, that is without the tension. Ga da ma, with the vocal tension, which is trying to imitate the tension of the veena pulled string. Ga da ma. So if you look at my hand also, we'll have the tension. Ga da ma. Doesn't that sound more like a abogi that we would like to listen? That gamaka itself is an aspect of the veena. Because there you have to pull that string. So the tension of the pulled string is part of the sound. It's part of the gamaka. And it is a tension of the pulled string that we are trying to imitate with the voice. Are you able to? It's a little deep and very detailed. But that's who I am. I like to go into very deep, very small details. But it's very beautiful. It's very empowering to know that this jaru, which is a very important dhatu, the way we negotiate dhatu with the gamaka in Carnatic music, is a matter of that. In Hindustani also it is similar. Because the Rudra Veena, the Sur Bahar, Mada, Mada, Madari. So Mada, Mada, that Ma, that is a pull. Ma, if I stop it, it has pulled, and from Sa, the sound is released. Mada, Ma, if I sing Mada, it is not as impacted. Mada, no, Mada, Magari, Sare, Gare, Ga, Madama, Madama, Dama, a pull from, below a pull from, that is returning back to a note from the pull. All of them are part of the sound of a gamaka. So gamaka is not just moving from one frequency to the other. Gamaka is much, much, much bigger. Gamaka has to deal with attack of a particular sound, decay of the particular sound, the fade out of that particular sound. All that are part of the gamaka. We don't give it that value because we do it very instinctively. Right? So, even in Carnatic, when you sing, because the veena couldn't produce a continuous phrase, the syllables that I use are corresponding to the veena pluck strokes. This happened in Carnatic music. Each of the syllables is playing the role of a plucking. And that becomes the conditioned aesthetic. So if I sing, it won't sound Carnatic. It will sound incomplete. If I sing that, it will sound Carnatic. Do you agree? Now that is a sound aspect of the veena. Because you have to pluck. You cannot play a contour. It will disappear. Sound will disappear. You have to keep plucking it again. So and there are hundred such details. How one instrument, if you take Todi for example, like I told you, in the Nagaswaram, the play of the fingers with the holes is very fine. You know? And so at that high speed, if you see fingers of a Nagaswaram, you have seen a Nagaswaram live, you will see that the fingers hardly move. But they are producing all these swaras. So the idea of playing fast and brika based phrases on an Adaswaram is very easy. That's why they tend to play fast. Tadana, tadana, na 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 na. So na 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 na. All these are Nagaswaram aesthetics. Tadana na 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 na. All these are instincts of the Nadaswaram playing. Because for them it is very easy. For them to play, I'm singing Shanmugapriya. That is very difficult. To produce half closed and full closed notes in slow speed on that instrument is very, very difficult. Speed is easy on that instrument. Easy, I mean relatively easy. To get perfection in that. But the instrument allows that to happen effortlessly. Because of the construction of the instrument and the sounding of the instrument. Right? So, when GNB hears Rajaratnam Pillai play, I am enacting, you can visualize. So, there is a temple festival and Rajaratnam Pillai. Have you heard Rajaratnam Pillai? If you have not heard Rajaratnam Pillai, please go and listen. Because it is one of the epitomes of creativity, epitomes of freedom, epitomes of what Manodharma is. Nobody has come close to it. You know, such magnificent interpretations of Todi, Shanmugapriya, Kedaram, Devagandhari, all that you can get to listen. He was once in a century kind of a musician. Like I said, he completely changed the complexion of Carnatic music. You listen to, there are a few recordings of Muttaya Bhagavatar, a few Veena Dhanammal, who are all pre-1930. You will not even identify the raga as Todi. Gaga di sa ni da ni sa ri gaga ri gaga mama pa ma gaga ri sa ri gaga ma pa da ni da ba da ma pa ga ma pa da ba ma ga ri sa ri ga ri sa. That is the idea of Todi before Rajaratnam. So I call this over-gamakization of Carnatic music happened at the hands of Rajaratnam. And very brilliant structureless exploration, which then conditions GNB also to explore similarly. Even the mind gets conditioned. GNB explores, Lalgudi sir is influenced, Brindama's sense of brika is influenced by the punch of Nadaswara. Brikas, you know, all of you know what a brika is? Yeah. A brika is the kind of a embellishment of a particular swara, which is probably the most appealing. Immediately your heart responds to a nice brika. It is so appealing. Chocolate, or it's like that. Like you won't see all of us when we eat chocolate, good chocolate. You know, there is immediate delight. What's called Ranjakatva. That delight is immediate. Similarly, a brika's delight is immediate. You don't even need to have any jnanam. There is a virtuosic delight in it that we all enjoy. So whether it be Sheshagopalan later or Kalyan Raman later, they've all heard Rajaratnam so much. And they are singing to have that delight. Like I said, musicians are greedy. Whatever somebody does beautifully, I want to do. That is the instinct. Correct? So Sheshagopalan, Kalyan Raman, GNB, all of them are borrowing from the instrumental Todi of Rajaratnam. Yeah? Anyway. So on instruments which can produce that fine kind of, brilliance. For example, a Gotu Adhyam will not be able to produce that brika. It is not the musician's problem, it is the instrument's limitation. Right? Because play ga kari tar tamala. Let it let me take any other raga. Suggest any raga. Some raga. Tada nara nara tada tada nara 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 nara. So that brika, GNB's brika will be have a different quality. Kalyan Raman sir's brika will have a different quality. Sheshagopalan's will have a different quality. Abhishek will sing it different. The quality of the brika itself will be different. Depends on how that particular double note, the punch in it, the what can I say, the grip in it. I'm not doing a good job, but that idea. Ikara brings out the briga clearly. It is tough to do with akara. That is why today 90% of the singers taking the easy route, doing ikara mode. It's easier. To do it with the akara, which is the correct way, I believe, is a little more tough. Anyway, so that brika in Begada is not necessarily a very brika favorite raga. If you take something like Averi, Taga Gama Paga Paga Ri Sa Ni Sa Gama Pa Na 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 Na. So the violin can produce that magaga very brilliantly. If you hear MSG's briga or Lalgudi Sir's briga or Chandrasekhar's briga, you will hear that Papa Gadi Sa. Pad Vasi. Not good now. Little more clarity. Papa Ga. So in the brika, the second ga has to be little louder. Papa, if you break it down, Papa Magaga. So the Magaga, the second ga has to be little louder. Then the punch is more. Papa Ga. Not too much. It should not stand out. Papa Ga Ma Pa Ga Ma Pa Ga Ma Pa Ga Ma Pa Ga Ma Pa. Ni da ba pa ga ma pa ga ni sa ga ma pa ga ni sa. So that the idea of that brilliance is what even an untrained rasika will enjoy. So this is all coming from where? From the veena. There is a gamaka which is called the jhrumpita. You know, among the 16 types of gamakas, there is a gamaka called jhrumpita. So in the word itself you can understand, it's a veena gamaka. Ring, jhrum. I'm not saying this. This is there in our theory. Jhrum has got to do with the brilliance of tring, that kind of sound in our music. So the vocal tries to do that. Even though it is a veena gamaka, the vocal tries to bring that into its palette of sounds. Okay? Where was I now? Let me refer to so I've totally veered off what I wanted to speak, but then that is okay, because I had made some notes. Maga pa ma pa ma ri sa. Maga pa ma. In Kedar, this is Kedar. The region of Dapama is the richest place. It's like a gold mine. You know? So if you are able to harvest the gold in that region, Pamadama, 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 Pamadama. It's so beautiful. There are 100 possibilities there. Right? So everything else is just an addendum. Kedar's Jivan, life is in this place. And so also, so many ragas like that. So on an instrument, if you have to be able to, so if you cannot play Dama, Dama, if you cannot play that continuous movement from Dha to Ma, Kedar will remain a dream on many instruments. You just cannot do it. Pamadama, Pamadama, Pama, Pamadama. You know how beautifully that Da to Pa to Pratimadhima to. Sometimes the Pratimadhima is masked, sometimes it is shown. Da, Pa, Ma. That is also Kedar. Pama, 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 Pama. All of that has got to do with this. Now, if an instrument has to be able to play Kedar effectively, unless you are able to bring this out, Kedar will be incomplete. Like I said, in our music, the music is primary. So unless you are able to touch that, you are not playing Indian music. As if you play pa ma ta ta ta, that is not Kedar. It has to have that gradation. Pa ma da ma da ma da ma pa da ma. Now it is coming to ga and then going up to ma. Da to ga and ma to. So the travel of that da to pa to ma is what is so magical about it. So every raga will have such things, which one has to try to work at. So many times when you listen to Amir Khan Sahab playing or singing, you will find the sarangiya aspect of it. You know? Because the way you can slide on a sarangi, the sarangi's slide, that what is called meend, is the most beautiful. Because it is so fine. The sound itself is fine. And the meend on that, you know, if you can recollect the sound of the sarangi. Of course, now not many people are playing it. All of you have heard a sarangi? Now it is there only in film songs. We don't hear much of sarangi. But the sarangi's very effortless ability to slide is what I see reflected in this approach to Kedar. In fact, in sarangi, to hold a plain note, Shuddha Swara, is very, very difficult. So, if you see MSG's violin style is also premised by the sarangi's constant movement. Because if you take a raga like, say, for example, Malkons. Sa ga ma da ni sa ma ga sa ni da ni sa ga ma ga sa. In the Hindustani sa ga ma da ni sa, the sound is constantly moving. Sa ga ma da ni da ma ga sa ni da. Sa ni da ma ga da ni da ma ga ga ma ga sa ni sa. Sa ga ma ga da ni sa ni sa ga ma sa ni sa ma ga sa ni sa. Ni sa ma ga sa ni sa ga sa ma ga da ma ga sa. So constant movement. That is very sarangiya. MSG adapted it into the violin. There the movement is even free because even you don't have any grip. On the violin at least you have the encumbrance of the neck. So your movement is going to be slightly hampered. On the sarangi, that is why it is so difficult to play. Because you don't have any reference point for any of the swaras. It's all as if you have to pluck the notes out of air. हवे से सुर को निकालना है. मतलब हवे से आप जैसे आप फूल को निकालते हैं, you have to pick, because there is no reference. Sa ga ma da ma ga sa ni sa. It's free. And the violin, at least you have the reference of the scroll and the neck. These become your physical references. So that sense of continuous gamaka in Hindustani vocal is because of the sarangi. Many times when the accompanying instrument and the instrumentalist is better than you, it happens. Firstly, that instrumentalist will not be called for the next concert. Correct? That is a natural outcome. Second thing I am talking, because I have, anyway, so, why the instrumentalists? Yeah, because we'll come to that. Because of the idea of Sahitya, primarily. Sahitya continues to be one area where there is no competition for the voice. The violin or any instrument tries to arrive at the Sahitya bhava. But the actual Sahitya and word meaning, especially in Carnatic. In the north, if you see, the last 50 years have been ruled by instrumentalists. Hariprasad Chaurasia, Amjad Ali Khan, and the greatest person of them all, Ravi Shankar, still holds true. Even useless instruments like the santoor are ruling. What can you say? It is not even an instrument. No gamaka can be done on it. But people like that very soothing anesthetic effect. Hindustani is moved towards very pleasing and smoothing, not enriching and enlivening. If they can sleep to the music, it is good music. It has become that way. This is an attitude of man, so sociological. The appreciation and the rise and fall of vocal and instrumental is more a sociological phenomenon than a musical phenomenon. Different eras, different people engage with it because it has got to do with the Rasika's mind. When the mind becomes not so sharp and wants to go there to have a good time, so to speak, relaxing time, so you are going to opt for things which are anesthetic, which will be very calming. So even very vibrant vocal music will not find currency. Otherwise, how can you explain? I have always been dumbfounded by how santoor can rule Hindustani music for such a time. Continues to rule in many. Because one thing, it doesn't require you to do anything. You don't have to think. My Guruji used to say, उसपे चूहा को दौड़ा दो वो राग चंद्रकौंस बजाएगा. चूहा को दौड़ा दो means you just set a mouse on top of the santoor, malkons अपने आप बजेगा. Which is a true fact. There is no sadhana for sound. You don't have to even find the sur, because all the notes are pre-tuned. And you are hitting 3 strings with one wooden mallet. That you give it to a KG class boy, he will also do it. Xylophone, we had I remember in my KG class, we had xylophone as one of the things. It's just a glorified xylophone. It's a folk instrument. It cannot produce gamakas. So what happens? They will play only the scalar ragas. A Charukesi, a Kirvani and all that. Because Darbari cannot be played on it. How can you play? Sa, sa, da, da, ni, pa. Without this, there is no Darbari. You cannot play. Whereas you can play Kirvani and Charukesi and all that, because they are more scalar. Anyway, that's a different topic. But yes, the dimension of the instrument, because in Carnatic, we have, for us, the word is very important. The Sahitya, the dimension that it gives in terms of joy and meaning to the Rasika, Sahitya is very important. That is why the instrument always remains. That is why an instrumentalist has to play compositions which are already known. Because even if I am playing Yendaro Maganu Bhavulu Yendaro, if I play it on the violin, it is because I know that 95% of the people have heard it. And they are enjoying it because the Kriti and its Sahitya is playing in their mind. They are actually not listening to you. They are actually listening to their inner ear, where there is a memory of having heard the Sahitya. So, Yendaro, that ro is very important musically in Shri. That extension of that ro. Right? It is that Tyagaraja's greatness, where he can choose to put that syllable in that note. So, since Sahitya is important, vocal music has maintained its primacy. I think because of that, because we require the Sahitya for, in terms of literary excellence, we are able to find meaning there. Tyagaraja, we are able to find Sahitya moving us in terms of meaning, in terms of bhakti and all that. A Dasar Pada moves you because the language is intimate with you. So even if I sing a Dasar Pada badly, you will still enjoy it. Because you have the avenue of enjoying the Sahitya. Actually, I was talking to him. That's why the divide, where somebody will say, why they are singing all Tyagaraja songs, we don't understand them at all. Why don't you sing Tamil Kritis? In Tamil Nadu, in Chennai, the tendency is there that if you sing too much of Sanskrit, and so there is a divide that happens because of Sahitya. Because Sahitya has to deal with language, and language creates divides. That's a different subtopic, but I'm just telling Sahitya is Pradhana. So vocal music only can come. But if you know a composition, I will now try to play a couple of kritis where I will try to reach the Sahitya Bhava and the musicality of the Sahitya. The Sahitya has two elements. One is the language meaning, and one is the musicality of the sound of the Sahitya. Are you able to appreciate? The Sahitya, that is why we can sing beautiful songs without even understanding the language and still appreciate them. Because the sounding of them is so beautiful. Right? And because the Sahitya in South Indian compositions is united by Samskrita, some sense of meaning you can make out. Even though I don't know Kannada, when I listen to a Vachana or a Pada, some sense of meaning I can get because there is a unifying element of Samskrita in it. Right? Akka kelava nanonda kanasa kande, akka kelava nanonda kanasa kande. So I know Kanav is Tamil for dream. Akka I know, Kande I know. So even though I don't know the Kannada, I can make sense of the keywords most of the time. And then I can relate to it. Begane baro, begane baro, begane baro. So once in one stage where I was sharing with Gangai Amaran. Gangai Amaran is Ilayaraja's younger brother, if you know. He's also very famous. You know Ilayaraja? So they don't like classical music, okay? They always want to put it down. That's their problem. So he says, this big, so I sang, they asked him to sing something, I sang Krishnani Begane Baro. So he's saying, this Begane Baro, you're singing it so slow, whereas aren't you supposed to sing it fast because you're asking to come fast? So I says, that is where you have to discover yourself, I told them. They won't understand. He was very argumentative. When he went to the mic, when it was his turn to speak, and he started lambasting all this Carnatic music. Anyway, so I'm recollecting that because I'm singing Begane Baro a little slow. Because that is the aesthetics of Yamuna Kalyani in that mode. Begane, Begane, Begane Baro, Begane Baro, Begane Baro, Begane Baro, Begane, Begane Baro. My sir Vishwa sir used to sing this so beautifully. Begane Baro. So here the words are there, Sahitya is there, but then Yamuna Kalyani decides that I am more important. Yamuna Kalyani, I can enjoy for a longer time. Begane Baro, the meaning of that word, second time, third time, fourth time, there is a law called law of diminishing returns, if you have done. So the meaning is already known. Begane Baro, okay, come fast, come. So unless you are a great bhakta, whose attachment to Krishna is so deep, as far as the meaning of the Sahitya, it is not going to change. So it's hold over your imagination. Yamuna Kalyani has to take it. So every time I sing Begane Baro, it is the Yamuna Kalyani that is moving you, and the words continue to be your anchor. That is the way I look at it. Begane Baro, Begane, Begane Baro, Begane Baro, Krishna ni Begane Baro. So here when the words and the raga go together, magic is created. In Hindustani, the scope for this traditionally has been less. Except recently when you hear Kumarji sing, Kumar Gandharva, who reinvented the idea of word meaning and word sound. What shall we sing? What? Kumarji is telling, suggest me something in Madhyama Shuddhi. कौन ठगवा नगरिया लूटल हो, 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 कौन. So when he splits the word लूटल हो, a poet or a linguist will say you are doing padacheda. You are breaking the word. Lootala is the word. Lootala means to steal. Lootna. Lootala. Kaun thagava nagariya lootala ho. So lootala ho. But for him, the dvitiya akshara stress. Lootala ho. Kaun thagava nagariya lootala ho. For him, that lootala and that second last word rhyming is followed in the other stanzas. Sutala ho. Tutala ho. Uthala ho. So he realizes that the tha is the moving element in terms of word sound. Kaun thagwa nagariya lootala ho, kaun thagwa nagariya lootala ho, kaun thagwa nagariya lootala ho, lootala ho. So when I am singing lootala ho again and again, for me to bring that out on the violin is impossible. So here is where the vocal dimension of the Sahitya sound is something that can never be, it is a one-way street. Because only the voice can bring it. So some compositions I feel it's pointless to play them on the violin. Even Krishnani I will not play on the violin. Because the way I like myself singing it is 1,000 times more than even if I play it very well. It is still not working. That objectivity of what to sing, what to play is also important. Whereas a composition like, say, Manavyala Kincharadate, all of you know that composition in Nalina Kanti. There the instrument soars. The voice cannot soar. We will play that. The voice cannot produce the brilliant sounding of Nalina Kanti. It can, of course. But I am saying the violin will be able to do it better. Both are valid, but sometimes some compositions which are known to people, an instrument can play it very, very well, very close to the vocal. The final effect will be very close to the vocal. Whereas in a composition like this, it is very difficult to get that same hold, because the tune is very simple. The melodic structure is very simple. It is the impact of the Ay Jamaraj, आए जमराज पलंग चढ़ी बैठा, आए यमराज हसुआ हसुआ हसुआ, सूटल हो कौन ठगवा नगरिया. The sounding of the words, asua, asua, asua. I cannot bring it out on an instrument. It will fall flat. Only ta sa di sa sa ni will remain. But asua, 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 tutala ho kaun thagwa nagariya lootala ho kaun. This is Kumarji's tuning of a Kabir Pada. So in Carnatic also there are so many compositions like this, which are the domain of the voice. And like I said, repeating myself, I tend to repeat myself. Even if you enjoy an instrumental version of it, it's because you are listening to the vocal in your mind. Yannatavam Saidanai Yashoda. So how does a very good instrumentalist, generally simple bhakti based composition, sahitya, are irreplaceable in terms of voice. Voice is what makes the maximum impact. So when an instrumentalist adapts it, he finds sangatis and musicalities within raga kapi. This is raga kapi, correct? So we'll also play that on the violin and see how the creation of violinistic sangatis will try to make up for the inability to project sahitya. Are you understanding that mechanism? Because on the violin I cannot project sahitya, I project sangatis. We'll play now, otherwise I'll keep going in a tangent. Abada. Huh? Pointless. Because the idea of sahitya vinyasa, if you're not able to bring out the sahitya and the craft of Niraval is how expert you are at doing manodharma, at the same time adhering to the sahitya krama, where all they fall, the syllables fall, correct? So on a violin or an instrument, it becomes redundant. It just becomes a tune. So I'm also against, I can play. When I accompany, I play. And for namesake, I will play one kriti in a concert with Niraval. But generally, I find that manodharma anga is not very relevant for the instrument. One has to be honest enough to accept that. So that is also one domain. Niraval as a manodharma anga for an instrument is pointless. That is my philosophy. You are free to differ. It doesn't serve a purpose. Increase the volume. Play. Play. know this? You've heard this kriti, this composition? So that's the first step. I bring that very beautiful panipa. This is all trying to make up for the inability to play Sahitya. This is my interpretation. Next Sangari. So bring in Kapi to compensate for Sahitya. So that gum. Yanatavam. Right. All small things, but so Amma Yendrajaika. So this is not a vocal Sangari. This is the original Sangari. But to add so that Yennatavam, that's an instrumental dimension. So that introduction of the Shuddha Devata is all again very instrumental. You're understanding the logic of that. So in a kriti like, for example, Manavyala Kincharadate that I mentioned, again, it has become the instrumental domain because of the Sangatis. So I will exploit the possibility of speed on an instrument. This is the Sagari Mapani Sari Pani Sagari Mapani Sagari Mapani Sagari Mapani Sagari. That is the idea. So the lack of Sahitya, I am able to make up with virtuosity. This you cannot sing, right? And it's an empty space. Manavyalakin. So Manavyalakin. You cannot play. It will sound very funny if you sing it. But on an instrument, if I play it well, it will sound very brilliant. Right? So the virtuosic element of the instrument sometimes makes up for the lack of Sahitya. There are a lot of examples especially the violinists of the generation of MSG and Lalgudi Jayaraman, took this to a new level. Instrumental sangaris. Nakriti like Ganamurte. And another area where the instrument scores over the vocal is in so-called Vivadi ragas. So for me to play a Thanarupi or a Ganamurte or a Chandra Jyoti or a Rasika Priya is relatively, I will not say easy, on the voice to play, to sing plain notes like the domain of the Vivadi, so-called Vivadi ragas, a lot of plain notes, and the Shashruti Devata or the Shuddha Nishada, all those things come. So to sing Sarigama Padama Gari Sani Sarigana is tougher. Because we are not used to doing the two rees together. Or a raga like, of course there are artists who have scored with that, but relatively it's easier for me to play a Nasika Bhushani than to sing the same. Rasika Bhushani is right? So relatively easier to play. 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 I can make very beautiful swara patterns. In the non-Vivadi part of the raga, I can bring in Kharahara Priya, right? So there's a lot of, so I can make it sound Carnatic also. So I can play that instrumental part and then that is very Kharahara Priya, right? So that is instrumental. So on an instrument I can keep switching back and forth to the instrumental idiom and the vocal idiom. This is the mean of the Hindustani. So in a Vivadi raga, I have a lot of freedom to play around with what I can do with an instrument. So we can go on playing an instrumental. It will be quite delightful. Because the beauty of the plain note also can be brought out on an instrument much easier than on voice. Because in alapana, in akara, to bring out that precision is very, very difficult. Correct? You would agree? The singers here would agree? Yeah, you cannot play. This phrase is going to be almost impossible to sing on in voice. So here is where the instrumental street becomes very wide. The potential for development in such ragas is very huge. Of course, you have to develop a technique for that, you know. What else? Speed also. Speed also is something. I'll wrap up in 5 minutes. Questions? Yeah, I'll just wind up. I'll just wind up, and the remaining portion we'll keep for next time. There are a lot of aspects still, because the listeners seem to be very keen-minded. Yeah. Like I was telling you about how to bring Sahitya Bhava on an instrument. You try. Like for example, Chetasri Balakrishnam you have heard in Dujavanti. So when you are very intimate with the violin, you work hard at bringing out a particular sound. For example, the beginning itself, Cheta Shri, these 3 rishabhas, right? When I sing, I can sing all of them the same. Cheta Shri. But for me to bring out the sense of Cheta Shri, on the violin, I will try to make it sound, every rishabha I will try to make it different. For example, that will be my first Shri, will be second, will be my third. So my Cheta Shri will be, no. So by constant introspection of how you can make a kriti line sound more vocal on the violin. In the kriti in Devagandhari, Yenneramum Undan of Gopalakshmi Bharati, some of you might have heard. In that the Madhyama Kala, Disayangalum Pugadum Shivagangayum Devasabhayum Aridana Rahasiyamum Pasikodad Parthaverku Kalakangal Parandida Magildu Unnai Padikondu. Now here the Sahitya is very elastic, right? Panchakshara. Now that the it's not Panchakshara Padiyum Kodikambamum. That is how it is supposed to be sung as a kriti. But when you stretch and want to give more Sahitya Bhava, more sense of freedom to the Panchakshara Padiyum Kodikambamum Kovillaragum Aridana Rahasiyamum Anjal Kurum Veeramanigal Osayum Andhakarana Mayakam Tirndunai Padikondu. So how I am singing the way KVN would sing, KV Narayana Swami. So the Sahitya importance kuduthu, that stretching feel of Devagandhari, we will try playing it on the violin. And the anuswaras, the way a violin can realize those anuswaras is fantastic. Like, now, dari sa, that sa is actually gasasa. right? Like I said, in so many ragas where speed is the mesmerizer, again, an instrument like the violin or the flute also can really score. Take Bilhari. So that fast phrases in it's very difficult to bring this precision in vocal. I have tried. I keep trying. So, these are all a little more difficult to sing than on the violin. So there are hundreds of such things. The bow with which I can paint so many effects. Even a tanam sometimes sounds better on an instrument than in vocal. So if you take, tell any raga. I cannot hear. Riti Gowda, okay. Riti Gowda is not a good example for virtuosity. It is more a bhava-laden raga. But if you take, like if you take something like Hamsanadam, you know all of you Hamsanadam? So the phrasing that I can create with my bow is very unique from what I can do in an alapana. So this kind of if you see the phrasing, and in Swara Kalpana, for example, if I want to do certain this kind of attacks, these kind of things, spiccato, like spiccato is where you bounce the bow. Now this dimension will not be there in the vocal, right? So jatis with spiccato. This is what you can call it a little bit of gimmickry, but this is what people really dig. You can play a very bad Hamsanadam, but if you do something like this at the end of it, people will clap. Or you can play a very beautiful Hamsanadam and not do this, and people will just keep quiet. So the instrumental idiom offers so many such impresario elements. Like one question that Sir asked, it is the impresario elements that sometimes make an instrument popular. It's not the Like for example, in Hindustani instrumental, the Jod and Jala and the Ati Drut, real fast speed. If we had time, we could demonstrate. What gets the claps? In Carnatic, unfortunately, we have not developed such cheating methods. It is not very great shakes. To play one note again and again and again and again and again is not so tough on an instrument. I can keep playing this for 5 minutes and you will not get bored on an instrument, you know. So when I play Ati Drut or Jod Jhala, so these kind of elements of sound all these things I can do. I can go faster. I can play all these things and again ensure audience applause. Correct? So the idea of instrumental and voice is a very beautiful two-street. That's the title of my talk. It's a two-way street where the instrument, the music is the paramount umbrella, and the instrument and voice with its pluses and minuses live in a synergetic kind of atmosphere where at different points in time the vocal borrows from the violin, from the instrument. Today I was focusing more on the violin because it is my instrument, but if you talk to any instrumentalist, they will explain to you what all elements of their chosen instrument reflect the gayaka, what all elements of their instrument reflect the tantri vadya or the vadya aspect of it. So this beautiful interaction and dynamic between the two is a very enriching, that's how the music moves forward or backward as the case might be. But the evolution of the two side by side is what is so beautiful about Indian classical music. There are so many, I have so many other points. The playful mood that an instrument can bring, the very pensive, reposeful mood that an instrument can bring to score over the voice. Like a Riti Gaule, I think I can play in a very, very reposeful mood, which will be difficult to recreate in the voice. That kind of beautiful, soft, smooth, calm kind of tonality, which will be very difficult. Nothing is impossible. The voice can do everything, but it will be more difficult. So this going together is what I wanted to bring out. Hopefully I have succeeded to maybe a little bit. Thank you so much for your love and patience. Thank you. Sri Guru Pyo Namaha.
So do we take questions before I wind
Two
up?
questions.
If there are any, one or two.
Talk and demonstration was totally pointless, that you feel not wasting any more time. Or the other way, it was so complete that there are no doubts in your minds at all.
I think there was a lot to process, sir.
A lot to process. Yes, correct. Yeah.
Hello, Sriram sir.
Fourth row.
Sriram sir, hello.
Tell me.
It was a really good presentation. I just have one query. You just mentioned that Lalgudi sir has modernized some of the Abhogis aspects like Ga and the dynamics of Ga and the. Right. So similarly, is it also the fact that Lalgudi sir has also like influenced Ananda Bhairavi with the long jarus and all the gimmicks there?
Yeah.
Is it true?
Very true.
Okay.
For example, there are these ragas which are so evocative in the vocal idiom that when you want to present an equally evocative version on an instrument, for example, I'll play and so show you. Like even the Panchama, which is a non-Vikrita swara in Ananda Bhairavi, all of you know the Panchama is the most important swara in Ananda Bhairavi. So he will give effects to even Panchama. So the dynamics, like
ಅಣ್ಣ ಸೌಂಡ್ ಕೊಡಿ ವೈಲಿನ್ಗೆ. ನಿತಿನ್ ಅಣ್ಣ ಸೌಂಡ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ ವೈಲಿನಿಗೆ?
nobody is there.
He's there. Yeah. ವೈಲಿನಿಗೆ ಸೌಂಡ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ? He's
The
there.
Panchama itself, he will have so many different vibratos in that. Then he will shift his focus to Rishabha. So the main weapon in his armor is this vibrato. And he will bow very close to the fingerboard. So the soft, very filigree kind of sound. Like it will not be this. That then he will echo it on the lower octave to emphasize the effect. So he was a great dramatist. Three, four times the Daivata will come, like very. So this octave playing, all of them are strategies. That is a different topic. In terms of how strategy wise you can make an instrument shine. Like the gap, you will never sing ta ta na na na. You will not sing that. It will not be up. But on the violin, it will have a appeal which is very, very beautiful. So the thinking musician will find ways to make the raga work for his instrument. All instrumentalists do that. Yeah, I hope I've thrown some light.
So I have a question.
Saman we have.
I have a question.
Sir,
Why is the emphasis on all the instruments to follow Gayaki style? Because of late, even instruments like Nagaswaram, they are following Gayaki style to a large extent. So, why is it? Why is there an emphasis to follow Gayaki style? Why can't there be individual styles?
In Carnatic, it is very clear that you are trying to project the kriti or the composition. So, the Gayaki style is most effective. And and there is a process by which it has been set in motion, whether it be Lal Gudi or T.N. Krishnan, or who tried to. Many of the aesthetics are very vocal. Pama ga ri sa ga ma pa ma pa ni sa da pa. Now that particular imagination of Dhanyasi is very vocal. Ga ma pa ma ga ri sa ni sa ga ma pa. So you cannot play this in an instrumental version. It will be very flat. So because the raga dimension itself is very vocal in its scope, when you play an instrumental version of that, it will not appeal. So you have to somehow bring in the vocal dimension, and that is the challenging part of it. How to make a violin sing, how to make a veena sing, how to make a nagaswaram sing. Because there is not, like I told, the supremacy of singing is very absolute. The instrumental adds dimensions to it, that's all. In Carnatic especially, that is true. In Hindustani, for example, in sitar, etc., they have evolved totally different compositions. They play gat, they don't play the bandish. So they are free of the word. So when the emphasis shifts to tune, gat is nothing but a tune, a rhythmic tune is a gat. Then the instrumental idiom can define its own space. So sitar khani gat, rasit khani, different kinds of gats are there in Hindustani, especially evolving around the sitar. Because if you look at it from the practical standpoint of view, whether it be the sarod or the surbahar or the mohan veena, whatever, all of them are evolving around the sitar, at least in the last 100 years. Vilayat Khan Sahab brought in an element of Gayaki, but Ravi Shankar played it in the instrumental way. So there is, for example, the genres itself of Jod, Jhala, etc. are instrumental genres. So there the instrumental, so Hari Prasad Chaurasia has also played Jod, Jhala and all those things. So there the idea of alap, the idea of Jod, Jhala have to come in, because the idea of developing a bandish for half an hour, 45 minutes is not available for the instrumentalist. An instrumentalist generally cannot, that's why the Gayaka, it's a separate anga. Whereas in Carnatic, the both are fused together. That is my understanding. Yeah. But nowadays, some of the artists have begun movement to create instrumental compositions in ragas. Why play the same kriti again and again? You know, that philosophy, like Ganesh Kumaresh compose their own instrumental pieces. But they have not taken off. Let us see whether instrumental compositions take off.
Thank you so much, sir. I think one round of applause. Sir, I'm too young to be speaking, but it was a deeply insightful session. The session was titled Gayaka and Vadya, a two-way street in Indian classical music. I think it indeed was a very busy, traffic-full Monday morning in the city of Bangalore, because the kind of information that has come in is currently that. It is so full and brimming of insights, data, information, and your personal analysis out of your expertise in the voice, in the instrument, and both the genres of Indian classical music, the Hindustani and the Karnataka Shastriya Sangeeta. I think it was interesting personally for me, who's been looking into the space of music research, as to the irony of when you started off, sir, mentioning about how there has been a influence of instruments on voice, say in the 1900s, of mentioning legendaries like Rajaratnam Pillai sir and their influences on the voices of GNB, that you very clearly see the Brigas and all of that being emulated onto the voice, and then Lalgudi continuing it in his own way in the instrument, and coming back into a circle of the instruments trying to play the Gayaki, of emulating the Sahitya. So it is, so what comes first, or who's trying to do what, or independently it is a musician's approach, or the virtuosity of the instrumental idiom onto vocals was quite interesting to see the insights because of your expertise on the violin. What particularly took to my attention was conditioned aesthetics of the perception of a listener. Talking about Todi, you said if we listen to the pre-1930 recordings of be it people like Muttaya Bhagavatar or Veena Dhanamal, you said that their approach to Todi or the Todi. So probably it is also the socio-political aspects of who is in that pivotal space at that time, who decides onto what becomes the further narrative, as to clear-cut changes into what we are listening or what we want to listen to. Todi is not because we want to listen, or the person who's actually conveying it to us, who sits in that position, I feel, at least what I've been able to perceive with what you had to put forward. And one more interesting is how we have the idea of, I think also why Indians have that idea of things came from India is because, especially in space of music, is there is no dearth of instruments. So it was interesting on how you actually started the session of Stradivarius, Organ, all these people who bought in the violin, but slowly going back to saying that, no, this instrument came from India. Yeah. You have the Ravanatha from the folk traditions, slowly traversing into and then coming back. But it was also interesting as to why did it had to go back, and why did the final or finishing product come back to India. So these are all questions. When I actually look into what I've written, I think I have more questions than what I had to talk. So that is for probably during lunch or post-lunch. It was enlightening, and it was, I think you had our attention through and through, sir. Thank you so much for this enlightening session. For the people of Udupi, and I'm sure this is recorded for many more online viewers.
Thank you.
Sir, would you like to?
I thank Sri Lakshmi also.
Yes, special mention to.
We didn't get to play too much because I got carried away with explaining things. But hopefully next time we'll do more playing and more singing. Yeah, but in a full form, as an accompanist, sometimes it doesn't give you the scope. But yeah, next time. Thank you all for your patient listening. Happy Ganesh Chaturthi one day later. Wish you all the very, very best. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om.